Good day, my friends. Brandon Harvey here, coming to you live from the beautiful country of New Zealand. If you follow me on Instagram or Snapchat, you may already know this, but I've spent the last few weeks exploring Australia and New Zealand. I was here to speak for a conference, and I've been loving every aspect of my visit. It's been so much fun. I want to welcome you guys to this week's episode of Sounds Good, the podcast where every single Monday I sit down with an inspiring person and talk about happiness, overcoming struggles, and living a life of intentionality and wonder. This week, I have the incredible Cubby on the show. I've been trying to record a conversation with Cubby for months now. The thing is that he's so humble and sweet that I had to beg him and bribe him to be on the show. But now I've got him. As many of you may already know, Cubby is one of the happiest and most lovable people on the internet. With 750,000 Instagram followers, the whimsical and hopeful photos Cubby shares on a daily basis have massive reach. And I'm sure you've seen one of his photos on the internet at some point or another, because they're everywhere. The amazing thing about Cubby's influence isn't just that he has influence, that he has a lot of followers, it's that he uses his influence for good in all kinds of ways. On top of being a fun-loving celebrity, Cubby also works at the innovative nonprofit Charity Water. He works as their community manager, where he gets to make a difference in the lives of people using social media on a daily basis. I loved getting to sit down and have a conversation about how Cubby got to where he is today, why he chooses to be positive and hopeful online, and how to make a difference in the lives of others, regardless of how many followers you have. And for the record, I'm recording this episode from my freezing cold Airbnb at 7 a.m. in Rotorua, New Zealand, with Cubby on the other line, coming in from New York City at 3 in the afternoon. So you might hear a beautiful little mix of the Shire and the Big Apple in the background. And with that said, let's just jump straight into this. Hello, everybody. I'm here with Cubby Graham. Cubby, how are you doing? Welcome to the show.
Brandon, it's so good to hear your voice. I'm doing great. I'm doing amazing. It's a Friday and it's a little cloudy outside, which reminds me of home. But yeah, I'm doing great. How are you? How's your trip?
Dude, it is so good. We've been having so much fun exploring New Zealand, and I mean, we had 2 weeks in Australia, so it's just been a fun adventure.
Oof.
Incredible people here, incredible food. We're just loving it.
It sounds like the dream. Sounds so awesome. It looks beautiful too. I've been watching like all of your photos and Snapchat. It's been awesome to follow both you and Sammy and your little journey to New Zealand.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's so freaking fun here. I'm loving it. But I'm loving like getting to have you on the show. Thanks for agreeing. I know that you are like far too humble and you don't want to talk about yourself, and so thank you for letting me trick you into talking about yourself a little bit.
Oh, I love like what you're doing so much, and I just like every single person that you've had on the show, I just look up to so much, and they've done so much in my life of like just in like who they are and like how they treat people and like what they bring into the world and like anyways, I feel so privileged to like be a part of this, and I think it's so great like what you guys are creating and like what you're bringing into this space in like the day and age that we live in, where we're inundated with so much so much bad news and so many like crazy things that are going on in the world, and just like to bring this fresh perspective and really encourage people with that. I think it's awesome.
Dude, thank you so much. I think that you were one of the and you're gonna hate me for saying this, but I think you were one of the initial inspirations for me just kind of jumping into this world of focusing on hope. So I guess I'll back up a little bit. Back in the day when I first jumped on Instagram, I must have been 18 or 19 years old, and I was living in Portland, and I started following this guy named Cubby, and I was like, man, this guy's so fun. And one day I took a road trip to Seattle, and I ended up getting to grab dinner with you and our friend Laura Lawson. She's amazing. Goodness. And that I remember that being like a pivotal moment in my life. I was so excited. I was like, I get to meet Cubby Graham. I get to hang out with Cubby Graham.
Oh.
Because I really admired what you were doing, and I thought you were crushing it. And you were just so nice and generous, and we ate delicious pasta. I think it was pasta. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
it was. I think it was in. Wasn't it in Ballard?
yeah, it was in Ballard.
That's so crazy. That was like years ago.
That was
that
years ago.
4 years ago now?
Oh my gosh, maybe. Which is
I think it had to have been because I moved to New York 3 years ago, and that probably would have been just a few months. Well, not a few months, but probably 9 months to a year before I moved. Because I had my beard at that time. Like I had my my massive beard. It was during that whole time when I was doing that campaign for Charity Water.
Yeah. So I kind of forget that this is your name, but all the time I'll be like, okay, hey, my friend Cubby did this, my friend Cubby did that, and people are like, is Cubby his real name? And I say, yes. Like to me it is. Like I don't know. That's all I've ever known him as. But tell me about the name Cubby, because that's the most warm and kind name. And yeah, what's the secret? Because I think other people want to know. I kind of forget that other people want to know.
Yeah, so that's so funny. I never really think about it much, but I do get people that are like, "Is that your real name? Like, did your parents really name you Cubby?" And I'm like, well, kind of. So Cubby's actually been a nickname since I was a day old. So. My mom started calling me Cubby because in the hospital, I just cried a lot. I was like, "What is this big bright world? I hate this," and I just cried. Except when I was with my mom, and whenever I was with my mom, I just cuddled up and quieted down, and so she started calling me Cubby because I was cuddly like a little bear cub. And so, it's always been a nickname, and it just kind of stuck. I remember my first day going to school, and my mom was like, it was so much pressure now that I look back on it. I remember my mom telling me all right, now they're going to ask you this is your first day at school. There's going to be a lot of people asking you what your name is, and that's what they're gonna call you for the rest of your life. So,
whoa,
do you want to be known at school as Cubby, or do you want to be known as Daniel? Fun fact: my real name is Daniel.
Your real name is Daniel.
Yeah,
whoa.
did you know that?
No,
did you know that? No,
I did not know that.
Well, I just let the cat out of the bag. You guys are all you listeners out there are now a part of this top secret club.
Yes.
Of people who know Cubby's real name. Because I said Daniel. So I went to school and people asked me my name and I said Daniel, but too many people already knew me as Cubby, because I have an older sister and she played a lot of sports and then also a lot of people that we went to church with, they also went to school with me, and so all of these other people in my life already knew me as Cubby, and so I remember just trying to pass off to all these new people that my name was Daniel, and just too many people already knew me as Cubby, and so it just stuck. I have family members I think that are just distant relatives that don't even know my real name. So it's truly this secret club.
Amazing.
Of people that know my real name. But yeah, that was kind of the origin of it. Sometimes I try to fool people and tell them that I came out of I was born into this world with a beard, and that's kind of where it all came from. But not necessarily the case.
Okay, so I mentioned this earlier, but I was following you on Instagram, which implies a certain level of Insta fame, and I'm sure you hate that phrase, but you have 750,000 followers on Instagram, and that's been a huge part of your world over the last few years. And I'm sure people are curious, what happened? How did that growth happen? And I will preface this by saying, the most cool thing about you isn't that you have a lot of followers. It's how you use the platform you've been given. And so I don't care at all about the numbers, but for the sake of curiosity, like what was the story of your Instagram journey like?
Oh man. For me, I think like I came from a place where I used to have a BlackBerry Storm. um, and the one with like the screen that like clicked when you pushed it. I thought it was like the coolest thing when it
yeah,
came
you're
out.
the coolest. That's
It was
dope.
like labeled as like the iPhone killer, and like I was like so excited for this phone. It was like it was the jump that I took from like the old like LG chocolate like slider phones.
Oh
I
my
had one of those that was
gosh.
like bright green, and but yeah, I kind of like fell in love with the power of stories and just with storytelling. And growing up, I had the opportunity to go on these trips overseas, and had the opportunity to go to Dominican Republic and got to go to Swaziland and Germany, and I really got to experience a lot of the world, and all those trips were with my church, and we would go and we would help, like we would bring clothes and we would bring food, and we would help build shelters and like dig latrines and like a lot of like hard manual labor, like helping build things for these communities, and as somebody coming from like a really really small town, those moments really moved me, and as somebody who was like 14, 15 years old, like getting to see these places, I bought my first like camera. It was actually like a Handycam, like a Sony Handycam that
Amazing.
shot 1 megapixel photos, and that was like
Incredible.
my first like introduction to like a digital image. And so I got it primarily like to shoot video, but I found myself really loving like shooting photos with it, and through that it was kind of like the gateway into to capturing these moments and these experiences, and like and I just like loved bringing those moments back, and sharing them with friends and with family, and these people that like helped pay for my trip. Like I was 14, 15 years old. Like I didn't have any money, and like these people really believed in me, and put me in these opportunities to experience the world and do something really good for the world. And I remember just like loving bringing those moments back, and just like being like, because of you and like the choice that you made to be generous and like invest in me, like this 14-year-old bratty kid, I had the opportunity to go and like meet this person and impact their life, and like this community like didn't have a latrine before, and we got to spend a week like hand digging a latrine, and they now have this thing, and bringing clothes and bringing food into these into people's homes where like that wasn't something that they had. Just felt like a really special experience, and so I fell in love with like the ability to like transport people places and show impact through the power of story, and to tell people stories, like the stories of these people that we were helping serve, and like how it's changed their life. And so I just fell in love with taking images, fell in love with telling stories, and over the years, like kind of grabbed different cameras. I upgraded like from my 1 megapixel camera to a Canon, and then I like made the jump into like the SLR world, and then I like upgraded my SLR and like got a bunch of lenses, and like really like started shooting a lot more, and I loved it, and I found myself like shooting not just on these trips but also telling other stories. I had the opportunity to go to conferences and events, and people started asking me to like capture their weddings, which terrified me. Like I know you like used to shoot a ton of weddings too, and like I've seen some of the photos that you've taken for weddings, and they're beautiful. A lot of people like don't know that I used to I think
I had no idea.
I've probably shot a good like 40 to 50
Dang.
weddings,
Wow.
which like I've never been a full-time like photographer. Like that's never been like a career. Like I've never like built a website or like a portfolio or anything like that. I just like I loved taking photos and capturing moments and being able to share those like precious, moments, at a wedding or getting to meet people on trips. So I just like fell in love with storytelling and capturing photos and I remember like this season where I fast forward, like I have this BlackBerry, and it took 3 megapixel photos, and I remember like seeing on Twitter people like posting links to these photos with like these like borders and these filters and I remember seeing those and be like, how are they doing this? Like this is so cool. Like I like how do I put like cool borders on my photos and like how are they like putting filters and like what is and so I remember like literally every single day, Brandon, I would get on like the BlackBerry app world, which is like where you would go to like get apps for your BlackBerry and I remember getting on there like every day and like every keyword search I could think of, I was like photo filters or like borders for your photos or like
So funny.
grunge filters or like I just like anything. I was searching every single day and nothing ever like arise. Like I was like I would always search for Instagram. I was like when are they gonna add it to the BlackBerry app world? And like I think like to this day it doesn't exist. So
I'm sure.
eventually I like made I made the jump and got an iPhone. 4. I think it was an iPhone 4 was the first one I got, and I remember Instagram was like the first app that I downloaded just because I loved telling stories and capturing photos in these moments, and like I found myself shooting a lot, just like in the evenings and weekends for like I mentioned, weddings and concerts and album covers and tours and all of these things, and I found myself like not shooting a lot just to shoot and so I always thought about this idea of like, imagine like John Mayer, like only playing his guitar when he's on stage, and like how, as a musician, like how unfulfilling that would be. Like, like those moments where you just like you play to play, and you just like let this like the creativity flow and just like you'll those moments where you're like in your living room and maybe like two friends and you just have this jam session and it's like so special and I just like I felt like that but with capturing photos and like I just found myself like I was just shooting a lot for spending my evenings and weekends shooting like weddings and conferences and events and on tours and album covers and I just like I wasn't just like shooting just to like go out and like capture moments and meet people and tell their stories and so Instagram was like the first app that I downloaded because I really wanted a place where I could just like capture these moments that I was seeing every single day, but I wasn't carrying my SLR around with me. Like I wasn't carrying my big heavy camera and like lenses everywhere I was going but like I had this small little device and it gave me the opportunity to capture these moments and beauty that I was seeing around me and share that. And I remember when like 100 people started following me. Like I think I like hit the 3 digits. I got like there was like 100 people that started following, and which wasn't overnight. It was just like it was friends and it was family. And but I remember like that moment being like I was like, who are all these people? I like when like the first person that starts following you that like you don't know, that moment where you're like,
Yeah.
who's this guy? Like, and I remember that moment, and I was like, who, like, where are all these people? Like, who are they? Like, and I think like I've always just like loved people, and like, and there was a moment where I realized I was like, oh my goodness, like there are people on the other side of the internet. Like there are individuals on the other side of like every single one of these like these comments and like every single person that's liking this, like there's a human on the other side of of this like device and this like, you know, cloud of information, and like there's somebody
Yeah.
like double tapping their screen,
And that's
and
easy to forget sometimes too.
so easy. It's so easy to forget. Like we can get into our own little worlds and like see numbers and like and forget that there's people behind every single one of those moments. And so, you know, like that was kind of where it just hit me, and I was like, wow, like I felt like I had such an opportunity to like to encourage them. I envisioned like us being in the same room, like, and it's so funny because like you walk
Amazing.
into a coffee shop and like, you know, people are sitting at the same table and yet they're like on their phone. And I don't know if you've had those moments where like you're like texting with somebody in the same room and you're like, what are we doing right now? Like we're sitting across from each other, yet we're like communicating through these devices and like not using words. And I just like I envisioned like just sitting in the same room with these people and like I don't know, just the opportunity to like encourage them. And I thought about myself, like, you know, the internet's such an interesting place where you never really know what's going on in people's lives, if that makes sense. Like, I think that like it's so easy to like share moments that are like, you know, when do people share the most? It's like when they're on vacation or like something really cool
Yeah.
is happening. It's like those are the moments, and those are amazing. But like, I just started to think about like there are so many things that are just like daily, like that you have no idea like what's like really going on inside of these
Totally.
people. And like, and you know, you know, I thought about that a lot, of like just the daily interactions that I had, not just on the internet, like, but in real life. Like when you are like standing across the counter from a barista and like ordering your coffee, if you ever really thought about like what's really going on inside of their life, like, you know, you have no idea like what kind of a day that
Yeah.
person is having. Like they, you know, they could be having like the hardest day at work ever. Like, you
Totally.
know, 4 customers ago they just got like, you know, screamed at. You don't know, like, you know, maybe they just, you know, maybe they just got a text message finding out that somebody that they loved has passed away. You know what I mean? Or like maybe
Yeah.
they just like, maybe they're just having a bad hair day, or like maybe they're just like,
Totally.
maybe you never know like the moments that are really taking place. And the internet is so mysterious in that way of like, you know, people are on it. And I just found myself recognizing that like I have no idea what's going on in those people's lives, but I just found it as like I have an opportunity to like to share something that, you know, has inspired me, or like is getting me through, or like to encourage them in a place where like, you know, maybe it's the most, you know, encouraging thing they'll hear all day. You know what I mean? Like
Totally.
what I'm about to share is like the most encouraging or hopeful or good thing that they hear all day long.
I guess it makes sense though, because you know when people feel encouraged, when people feel loved, they tell their friends. They more and more people want to kind of join into that experience. I think it's kind of. I think that joy is contagious, and I think that you are incredibly joyful, and so it's really no surprise to me that you kind of grew a surprisingly big audience on Instagram with just some iPhone photos and some encouragement. Like that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I think like people matter like so much to me, and I don't know, like I feel like people have invested so much in my life over the years, and like I wouldn't be who I am if it wasn't for people. I view like that, like you have an opportunity to just like invest in others, and like for me, like I just want to invest in others just like others have invested in me. And I don't care like where you're from or like what your situation is now, like somewhere along the way, like somebody took a risk on you, like somebody like invested
Mm,
in you and like said something to you that like stirred something up inside of you that like drove you to do like what you're doing, or like help pay for your school, or like brought you out to coffee when like it probably wasn't the best use of their time, but it was, because it's like it's made you into the person that you are today. And like I see
Absolutely.
that as like we have the greatest responsibility of to like pay that forward to like the people that we have as a part of our lives, whether it's like just a moment in time where, you know, maybe I'll like never see this barista again, or like this person on the subway or whatever, but like in this moment, like I have an opportunity to just like say something or encourage them or do something that just like
Yeah.
makes their day. And like it actually reminds me of a donut shop, which I know you love, in Portland, Pip's Donuts. I
Yes.
I think it was, I can't remember where I saw it. It was on the internet, I'm sure. But I remember seeing this article about them and how they're they get like an extra $30 on their paycheck.
Yeah. So my friend Nate runs Pip's Donuts, and every single paycheck, his employees get an extra $30 on their paycheck, just like added on. No matter how much you made that month, like you get that added on, and you get the opportunity. Like the encouragement is that you use that to pay it forward. You do something for somebody else with that extra money, and I love that idea.
I
It's
think it's
so
so
cool.
cool. I think it is.
It creates a lifestyle of paying it forward.
Yeah, and really like a culture of like always looking for opportunities to like do something. Like I think like that's
Yes.
what's like I think that that's at the heart of it, like the coolest thing that it's really creating amongst like the culture. I mean, I personally don't know any of the people that work there, but like I can just imagine like that being a topic of conversation of like, oh, I just learned about this, you know, this cool like shelter for women that, you know, that have experienced abuse, and like that's where I gave my $30 this month. I just like to create a culture of people that are always looking for the opportunity to do good, and I loved that so much.
It's
And I
amazing.
just think the world would be like, I mean, we would. How cool would it be if we all got an extra $30 on our paycheck to like to give? But like beyond the dollar amount, like imagine if we just like if every single, you know, person was always looking for opportunities to encourage, to like those moments where you can just like you can like make somebody's day. Like imagine if everybody was like on a make a day mission where like like
Yeah.
every day was like, all right, today I'm gonna like I'm on a mission to like make one person's day, and like how much better and like how cool would the world be?
Oh,
So
I
like
love
those are the
that.
kind of things that like get me super excited and amped. And but yeah, I just like I wanted to create more of that in the world, and like because I truly believe like, you know, people really matter, and you know, investing in others just like people have invested in us, I think is so important. And just like not getting so caught up with like who we are and where we've come from and like our status and like how much we get paid or the size of our apartment, like, but truly like looking for opportunities to invest in others just like they've invested in us and who we are.
Absolutely incredible. I love that. And so you've done an incredible job of using Instagram to to invest in people and to love people and to meet people and to I don't know, it's just put you in all kinds of incredible positions. But what's cool is at one point you got to kind of make a little bit of a transition from living in Seattle and shooting Instagram photos and kind of working a normal job to moving to New York City and working for a company where you get to basically love people and pay it forward on a daily basis as a part of your job. Can you tell me a little bit about that story of that transition and like how that came together? I'm sure you were, I mean, I'm not sure. I remember you being so excited. Like it was a cool moment in the life of Cubby Graham.
Yeah. So I grew up in this really small town, like halfway between Seattle and Portland, called
Amazing.
Oakville. You've probably never heard of it, but you've
I've never heard of it.
definitely
And I'm
driven
from
by.
Washington. I'm from a small town in Washington.
That's
I've never heard of
amazing.
it.
So you've probably like driven by a sign that says like Oakville, this exit. Or like if you've ever driven I-5, there's like the Great Wolf Lodge. Like in the past, I don't know, 10 years maybe, if you've driven I-5, there's like this massive like indoor water park hotel on the side of the highway, and you're like, what is that like giant slide doing in the middle of Washington?
Yeah.
And I mean, we're, of course it's an indoor water park. It's Washington State. It rains all the time. But that's the exit that I lived off of. So it was like a 25-minute drive.
Amazing.
Towards the ocean from there. But it's this really, really small town. So get this. I just realized this a month ago. There's 663 people that live in the town that I grew up in. Super small town. Whoa. 663 people.
Unbelievable.
Which is crazy. Brandon, get this. Okay, so fast forward, 29 years later, I now live in one of the biggest cities in the world, New York, and I work for a nonprofit called Charity Water that's on a mission to help bring, get this, 663 million people access to clean water.
Unbelievable.
Isn't that crazy? I was randomly Googling because I often use it in the part of my talk of like this super small town of like 600 so people, and I was like, what's the like exact number? I knew it was around 600, and like I was like, oh my gosh, it's like 663, and I was like, that like there's 663 million people in the world that don't have access to clean water. And that's what we're like working on changing. And so like it's just this crazy realization that I had a while back. But yeah, I had the opportunity. Like I mentioned earlier, I grew up going on these trips. To Dominican Republic, to Swaziland. I had the opportunity to travel in. And if you've ever spent any time traveling, whether that's like spring break to like Mexico or something, like a lot of times like the first like word of advice is like, don't drink the water, like you'll get sick, like it's like no bueno, like it's not good, like and I remember like going on these trips and like they would always tell us like don't drink the water, like while you're taking a shower, be careful like not to get it in your mouth, like like you might spend the rest of the trip like having diarrhea. Like it's not good. But it, like going on these trips, it never dawned on me like, what about the people that live here? Like where do they get their water from? And through that I realized that like these people are drinking dirty water. That like these we would be walking by, and see like these dirty water holes, and like there'd be animals drinking from them, and I begin to learn that like this is also where these local communities are getting their clean water. And, I remember like visiting these government hospitals and meeting these people and like that were super, super sick. And like, it hit me. I was like, oh my goodness, like, of course they're like sick. Like, look at the water that they're drinking. And through that, I came back, to the States, and I started like researching like all these different water organizations, and I learned about this nonprofit based in New York called Charity Water, and I was just drawn to like what they were doing. I loved I loved their model. I loved the way that they positioned stories and people, and like talked about they didn't like guilt people into giving. They like really believed in like inspiring people to be a part of this movement and like to make a difference. And so I was really drawn, like they they had this 100% model where 100% of every donation goes to clean water, and they like showed people where their money went, and I was like, this is amazing, like people are using the internet for good, like this is so cool. And I just became like a huge super fan of like everything that they were doing. And this was back in like 2009. Charity Water was like just a few years old, and I just remember learning about it, and I started following them. And they have this online fundraising platform where people can do all sorts of crazy things to raise money for clean water. And there have been like tens of thousands of people that have like given up their birthdays for charity water. And this is actually like one of the first ways I kind of got involved with the organization. I was like, I have a birthday, like my birthday's coming up, and like I was like, I don't need any more stuff. Like, I don't know about you, but like at one point you're just like, I don't need any more graphic tees. Like, I already have Taylor Swift's new album. Like what else do I need? Like, I don't need anything. And but like people need clean water, and so I decided that year to like give up my birthday for charity water, where I would ask all of my friends and family to donate $25 for my 25th birthday. And so I did it. I asked people to give, and I gave, and together we were able to help bring clean and safe drinking water to people in need. And I was like, this is amazing. Like seeing the impact of like what we were able to do together, and that like a birthday that's normally like a day that like comes and goes, like is now gonna like actually change somebody's life forever.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and so so just like I fell in love with what they were doing, became like a huge fan, and about the time that we first met, I had this massive beard. It was like it was huge, and I didn't really like set out to like grow a beard. I think like some people are like, oh, I just like want to grow this like big like beard, and like
you just kind of forgot to shave one day at a time.
I did. I was like, I had like I always kind of like had a little bit of facial hair, like a short like trimmed beard, and like just like a few weeks went by, and like it kind of got bushier and bushier, and like longer and longer, and people started to notice that my beard was getting longer, and I had a lot of people like...
People started making hashtags about it.
People started making hashtags about it. Oh, gosh. That was Laura.
The most famous beard on Instagram.
Laura started that hashtag. So our friend Laura, who we had dinner with the night that we met, when we had dinner that night.
Yeah.
So before she moved to Seattle, Laura started this hashtag that she like put in her bio on Instagram, and she had a good amount of people following her, and I think a lot of people took notice of like this line in her bio that that she wanted to her goal was to touch Cubby's beard. And it became this like hashtag where people would want to take a photo of them like touching my beard, and it became this. I remember hashtag.
I have a photo of me touching your beard. In hindsight, this is embarrassing.
Oh my goodness! I have to see that. I need to go back and look that up.
I'll have to dig it up on my old iPhone 4.
I'm sure there's like only like 14 or 15 photos on that hashtag, so it's probably like pretty easy to find. But
so funny.
It was so good. So I had this huge beard, and had a lot of people that were like, Laura, they were like, oh my goodness, like your beard is amazing, like you have to keep it, like please keep growing it, like it looks incredible, like it's iconic, like it's legendary. And then I had like this entire other group of people, like my mom, who was not a huge fan of the beard. She was like ready for it to go, and
so funny.
So I was like, you know what? Like, what if I start 2 campaigns on Charity Water's like online fundraising platform, where people could donate to Charity Water to either save my beard or shave my beard. And whatever campaign raised the most money for Charity Water would determine the fate of my face.
And you raised what, thousands of dollars?
We raised over $6,000 for clean water. And
which one won? What won? Shave it or save it?
It was real close, all the way up to the end. So like the entire campaign, like Save Cubby's Beard, was like about $1,000 a head. Like it was always on like the Save Cubby's Beard like anthem, and towards the end of the campaign, it was like an eBay auction. Like 20 minutes before the campaign closed, like Shave Cubby's beard just like came up from behind, and then it was like a donating war between like it was like this big donating battle between Save Cubby's beard and Shave Cubby's beard. And it would like one would go up $100, and then the other one, like somebody would donate $150, and then somebody would donate 75. It was just like back and forth. And in the end, Shave Cubby's beard won, and we ended up shaving my
Man.
beard off. It was a magical moment. I'm pretty sure a unicorn died that day. Um,
Oh,
but it was awesome, and to be able to see that the impact of something so like so silly, but
so
yet to
goofy.
like
So cubby.
but yet to like be able to bring people from all around the world together
Yeah.
around like one idea that, like, I think everybody in the world can agree that like people should have clean water. Like
Yeah.
you wouldn't wish like dirty water on your worst enemy. Like like
Yeah.
everybody should have clean water to drink. And so so that's kind of like what's brought me to where I am today. And now I have,
You became insanely passionate
yeah.
about it. And then you ended up applying, you ended up getting they ended up seeing the campaign. What was that?
So yeah, over the years I really got to know a lot of the team, and a few years back, they invited me to come and be a part of their team here, and work with students and schools, and just like had some experience like working with students from my past job in Seattle, and we would put on summer camps and conferences, and worked a lot with like leaders and students. And so when I joined Charity Water, I worked a lot with schools, and that like led into like a wider role of just kind of overseeing community, and most recently has
Amazing.
led into a place of leading our social media strategy. And so now I'm kind of in a place where I'm working with our team to kind of lead the strategy behind the stories that we share, and through social,
And you
and
get to make
and
people's
I get to make
day.
people's day. Brandon, today was like the best day. We have like this incredibly like vibrant community of people that like do the most amazing things to raise money for Charity Water. You've been a part of that. You've done campaigns for Charity Water in the past, but today the cutest campaign ever. There are
Oh
there
my gosh.
are these twin 3-year-olds that are celebrating
Oh.
their golden birthday, and they're asking people to donate $3 for their third birthday so that kids can have clean water.
Oh.
Isn't that like,
Cute.
I was like, here's $300. Like, are you kidding me? Like, and they're just like, they're the
Yeah.
sweetest. And like, it's like, I, every single day, like, am just so inspired by people and like the things that they do, and the creativity and the passion they bring to making the world a better place. And so it's so
That's so
inspiring. I love
cool.
it so much.
You
It's
have like a dream job. It's
it's
so cool.
it's I don't know what to say. I have no words.
Well, and I want to ask you because I'm sure it was a crazy experience moving from. I mean, you were living in Seattle at the time, but you're this kid who grew up in a tiny little town with a few hundred people, and you moved to New York City, a place known for being lonely and competitive and sometimes angry. What was like? What was that transition like into this new city, into this new place, into like? Was that hard? Was it like, did you jump right in? Like, if for somebody else who maybe is experiencing a big shift, like,
Yeah.
what kind of wisdom would you offer them?
New York is so different than Seattle, and way like night and day from the small town that I grew up in. And but it's such an incredible city, and you can, I mean, you've been here. Like, it's like there's just so much energy, and like there's always something happening, and like it's such a like vibrant, expressive, like beautiful like community, but it's hard. And like moving here, like I mean I feel very very fortunate in like in how I transitioned, and like I literally just like sold everything and like gave everything away, and like packed like 3 suitcases full of my most precious things, and like moved everything to New York. And it was challenging. I When I first moved here, I lived I lived in 5 different apartments over the
Wow.
course of 4 months. So I spent a lot of time like jumping around a little bit, and I mean, it's a really challenging place to really like find a place to live. Like, and you and Sammy, one of my favorite like couple photos that I've ever taken is of you and Sammy on the top of a moving truck. Do you remember
Oh
this?
my
Do you remember
gosh.
this? So
Yeah.
like shortly after I
Yeah.
moved into this apartment, like um, the roommates that already lived there, they're incredible, and a lot of the furniture that was in the apartment was kind of like roommates would like move in and they would like bring a piece of furniture, and then like when they moved out they like left it. And so like
Yeah.
our apartment had like all of these like random pieces of furniture, and
All this
it
B-list
was
furniture that was like the left behind stuff.
it was pretty magical. And so yeah, I was like, guys, like we need to like invest in some like good furniture, because like I cannot sit on that like chair in good conscience and like not have to take a shower afterwards.
Oh my
um,
gosh.
and yeah, shortly after we moved in, or shortly after I moved in, you and Sammy just so happened to be passing through town, and you were staying with me, right?
Yeah, yeah. We were in for a visit. We were staying with you before we were traveling somewhere. Yeah.
But yeah, so you guys were like crashing at my new apartment, and I was like, "Hey, so I just ordered all of this furniture, and it's being delivered to the charity water office, and I kind of like need to get it back to the apartment, and I've got this zip fan all lined up, and you guys helped me move all of that furniture like
We
into
like
the
sat in
apartment."
your in the back of the moving truck, and we like went into your freight
Yeah, I
elevator,
don't
and we
think it was
carried up this
legal.
big box. And
It was okay.
yeah, you ended up like leaning out your window and photographing us like laying on the roof of this truck. That was so
That was like
fun.
the best part about moving to New York. That's probably like my favorite memory. But yeah, and then we spent the rest of our magical evening, screwing together furniture,
Yeah, I put
building it
together your
all.
couch. I forgot about that.
Oh,
That's
and
so funny.
it gets good use every day.
Good. Man,
Thank
well,
you.
so your transition in New York has been awesome. You've kind of assembled a cool community of people then, huh?
Yeah. I get asked a lot, like, oh, what's like your favorite part about living in New York City? And like, there's always all these things to do. And truly, like, my favorite part about living in New York is the people.
Mm,
Like, New York has like the best people. Like,
it's
if you want,
incredible.
I mean,
It
people
really does.
watching is like the best in this city, but like, you can literally like sit on a park bench and like, just like, oh, I just like love it. Like, every single
Yeah.
person, like, their stories are like intersecting, and like,
I mean,
and
Humans of New York is like case in point.
oh yeah, totally. I like love what Brandon is doing with Humans of New
He's
York. Like,
incredible.
have you met Brandon before?
Not yet.
He
I'll just say this on the air. My goal is for the 1 year anniversary of Sounds Good to be with Brandon Stanton of Humans of New York. I'm putting that call out
Yes.
there.
Uh,
He's incredible.
yeah.
I love that guy. Dang it, he's so
I
cool.
I've admired like like his storytelling, and like I just like love the perspective that he has, and like the people that he meets, and like that's truly like that's it. Like, it's so easy just to like walk around New York City, and like and there's literally millions of people that you pass by, and
Yeah.
all of them have stories. And like the thing about New York is it's like it's not it's not an easy city to live in. Like you go anywhere else and you can kind of like meet people, and you might meet people that are like, oh, I'm just kind of like figuring things out, and like I'm like working this job, and like but like they don't like really know like what they're doing. But like the one thing that I like love most about New York and the people that live here are like they're here for a reason. Like there are so many
Yeah.
other places in the world that are like way more beautiful, that are like way less humid in the summer, that are like that are like breathtaking and stunning, and like incredible food. I mean, like, but like New York is like it's a challenge. Like people live in shoeboxes. Like they live in like
Yeah.
the smallest apartments. They work 2, 3 jobs like to pay rent and to eat ramen. Like it's crazy, like the things that people put themselves through to like to be in New York. And like they dream their entire lives about living here and being here and like being a part of
Yeah.
this city. And I think like what's so cool is like there's so many things that bring people to New York, but I think what's so special is like what keeps people here. Because I think like when
Wow.
you move
Yeah.
here, it's like it's the bright lights, it's the big city, it's this energy. Like being a part of it feels so magical. But like a few months go by, and you're like, okay, like I can't sleep at night. Like they're like my neighbors are so loud because my walls are paper thin, and like and people do it because like there's always something that like brings somebody here, but it's like what keeps you here. And I love hearing that story from people of like what is it that keeps people here. And it's their dreams, it's their passion. It's like New York has gives them the opportunity to do what they love, like to like whether that's
Yeah.
music, whether that's art, whether that's like Broadway or business. Like it's like New York has like brought them to a place because this is where they're able to do it. And like and so I think that's like what I love most about being in the city is it's a city of like of doers and like people that are just like
Yeah.
passionate about like what they're doing, and they will work 2, 3 jobs to like to make it, because like the thing that keeps them here is like far like greater than like anything else that like stands in their way. They're like, if
Yeah.
you can make it
That's
here, then you
incredible.
can make it anywhere. Like, I think that's what's so special about the city and what I love most. And like, and being able to meet people and like, and be a part of this community of just like, of people that are just like
Yeah.
passionate and driven and like doing what they love and like, and it's pretty special.
And that's the thing that keeps you in New York then, huh? It's the people.
100% people. And
That's
I mean, and it's
incredible.
like what I get to do every day. Like if I wasn't working at Charity Water, like I probably wouldn't be living in New York. Like it's
Yeah.
what's brought me here. It's what keeps me here. Like there are, I could list cities and places that I would, I think that I would much rather be living. But it's truly like the people and the
Incredible.
opportunity of like what I'm able to do from being here that like that truly keeps me in the city, like getting up every day, like loving what I do, like loving the people, and just like really like waking up every day.
That is incredible. I love that. I love your perspective on things. I want to transition and ask you a few questions that I love to ask all kinds of people. The first question that I want to ask is, okay, there's so much bad news out there, and you are the king of positivity. You're the king of joy. Like, what's your secret to staying hopeful and positive? And you've kind of talked about that a little bit in the like, but like, if you were to just kind of sum it up in something like, how do you keep a hopeful and positive perspective when it's not easy?
I think perspective is so important. You know what I mean? Like I think like perspective is so like key to being positive, and like that's just like that's the person I want to be. Like I don't like I want to be somebody that like that is like breathing like encouragement and like inspiring people. Like that's the imprint that I want to leave on people. And like sure, like there are like days where it's like so hard to just get through and like keep a smile on your face, and like, but I think it's so important to like to keep a wider perspective on like what's truly
Yeah.
happening. Like it can be so easy to like to let like a single moment of like something that somebody said to you, or like I cannot tell you how many times I've like almost been hit by like a car or like,
Oh my
I hope
gosh.
my mom doesn't listen to this, but like I live in New York City. Like there are dangers like all around you, and like you know, bicyclists riding over the bridges that like yell at you like or like you're in the crosswalk and you have the right of way, and like the little man says walk, and like somebody just like honks and like terrifies you, and like the initial like human reaction is like, oh no, you did it. Like you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
think like everybody like that initially like you're like, oh, like I can't believe they just did that. Like I can't believe that just
Oh my
happened.
gosh.
Like I have those moments, Brandon. Like it's true, but it's so important to just be like, you know what? Like I could react in a way that just like makes the situation worse, or I could like process it, look at it through a different lens, a different perspective, and respond in a way that like changes the situation. Like I don't know, like I love just like killing people with kindness. I don't know if I want to say that,
Yeah.
but like I just think it's so important to like to remember that like, this is a moment, like, I can take this moment and let it have a negative impact on me and like the rest of my day, or I can like process it, and be like, okay, like that happened, but I don't have to let that define the rest of my day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't have to let that
Totally.
define my attitude. I don't have to let that define the way that I choose to like treat like the next person that I encounter, or like, or like I don't have to let that
Yeah.
define like the way that I operate moving forward. Like
I
and
love that.
it's a decision. Like it's so hard to like to make that choice, but I think it's just like it's like remembering in that moment to just kind of to slow down, to take a moment to breathe, to like get some oxygen to your brain, because you're like right now blood is just like
Totally.
rushing and you're just like in fight
Yeah.
mode, but like to just breathe and just remember like, you know what, like I can make a choice to like react and in a way that like maybe even changes that person in a way that like, oh, I just did that, and like and their response wasn't something that I expected, and like it makes them think twice about like what they just did, and like and it
Man.
like and like moving forward, like they don't leave that situation with a chip on their shoulder as well. You just kind of in the moment
Totally.
you're able to just like change the situation both for you and that person. Like it's a decision, you can like make that choice just like in that moment to change the perspective of the situation.
Yeah.
And
I think that's incredible. Like, I love this idea of like, when something happens, you take a breath, you process things, you change your perspective, and you respond. Like, you talked about this earlier, this idea of like, you have no idea what your barista is going through. So, like, if your barista is like, if she's a jerk, you can be like, okay, what if like there's a reason for this? That's not that she's a jerk. It's something just happened. Or like, so I'm in New Zealand right now, and for some reason, the government of New Zealand said, hey, Brandon, like, you can drive in America. We'll just let you rent a car. Like, there's like, the law allows me to just go rent a car. So I rented a car. I rented like a
oh gosh.
Fiat, like a fast little whip, and I've just been buzzing all over New Zealand.
Yes.
And they drive on the other side of the road here, and I am like trying to figure out how to drive. I'm doing a pretty good job, but I have no doubt that I have made some terrible mistakes that I have not even realized yet. But it's kind of giving me this funny perspective because so I'm in this car and it's got like a bumper sticker on the back that basically it secretly lets people know like, hey, this is probably a foreigner driving and he has no idea what he's doing. And people
it's like those student driver bumper stickers, like when
it's basically the same thing exactly. And so
yes.
it's giving me this perspective of like, okay, I don't like I'm probably not a jerk. Like I don't know. It's hard to tell when you're yourself, but like I'm probably not a jerk. But I may be making mistakes in driving. I'm probably cutting people off on accident. So when I get back to the States and there's somebody else like who like cuts me off or something, I would love to be able to take a breath, be like, okay, I don't have to freak out about this. They're probably just a Brandon. They're in from New Zealand. The United States government was like chill enough to let them get a car and they're just having a good time. Like I can kind of have that perspective and be like, what if? Dude, I love that. That's so good. That's a killer secret to staying hopeful.
Yeah, and I think it just like it changes everything around you. It changes the way that you proceed like throughout the rest of your day. Like it gives you just like an opportunity to change the situation and shift it to like a more hopeful, like positive perspective on the world.
Amazing. Exactly. I want to ask my next question. How would you describe the kind of person that you most admire in the world? If you were to just sum it up in a sentence or two.
Totally. The thing that I admire most about people and just like the character that I think like inspires me most about individuals is when people use their influence to make a difference in the world. And like when I say influence, like I think it's easy to think about like having like you can kind of like look to like big like celebrity like influencers in the world, but I'm talking like each and every one of us like has an opportunity to like influence someone.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like you have the opportunity to like influence like the people that you work with. Like you have the opportunity to like influence the your family, like, and like every single day I get to work with these incredible people that choose to use their influence, to use their creativity, to use their passion to change the world, to make a difference. And so I think that that's what I admire most about others is like it doesn't matter if they have 5 people that follow them or 500. I think back to this quote that you actually said in one of your previous podcasts.
Oh my gosh.
Which really, I loved it. But I remember you like you saying this and it really hit me of like you never know the space that you take up in someone else's life.
Yes.
And I thought I was like, that's so true. Like you are influencing people every single day. Like every moment that you have with someone or like something you say or that you tweet or an interaction that you have with like somebody serving you dinner at a restaurant on a Friday night, those moments, like that idea of like, you have no idea like what you're doing and like, or you have no idea like the impact that you have in people's lives around you. And like I just want to like I don't know, I just admire people that can like live that way, and like I just want to be more intentional and more mindful and more present with every moment of my life, because like I don't know like the space that I'm taking up in other people's lives, and like how much like something means to somebody else.
I absolutely love that, and I think you're totally right. And the truth is, I think that like you've got nearly 1 million followers across the whole internet, but like you, Cubby Graham, are going to have a whole lot more influence on on the lives of the people that you work with and the lives of like the people that you interact with in person than you'll have through social media. But like you can absolutely have an impact through social media and like your work with Charity Water and the way that you've like raised so much money for clean water like is a testament to that. But at the same time, you know, somebody without a big Instagram following, like they have so much power to influence people in incredible ways. And that's I admire, that's like the kind of person I admire as well. Like that's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Man, dude, that's good. That's really good. You are the king of like whimsy and fun and joy. And so I want to just ask, like, what is like one thing that you're just like obsessed with?
I have been loving the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt series.
It's so good.
It's so good. Like, it makes me so happy. Like, I love the way that like Kimmy like lives her life. Like, she just like it's kind of funny. Like, it's, you know, she's just so joyful, and like her perspective on like New York City is like so different. Like, and like just like it's so hopeful, and like it's like not jaded, and like, you know, it's just like she always has like the biggest smile on her face, and is just like bringing like joy and happiness into like every single situation that she's in. And like I don't know, I just like it hits home so much for me. Maybe it's because I like live in New York, and it's just like so fun seeing like, oh my goodness, I totally know where that cafe is, and like like all of like the little like New Yorky things like really hit home, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like that totally happens. Like but like I think it I don't know, I've been like loving that series, and I hope that they continue to like make more and more of it. And if you could get Kimmy Schmidt on the Sounds Good podcast, that's another call out. For the
real,
it's podcast.
No joke. I have a list of all the people I want to have on my podcast. You're way high on that list, because when I was planning on creating this show, I was like, Cubby Graham has to be on the show. Oh. And one of the people I added in the last month or so is Ellie Kemper. Like, she's Kimmy Schmidt. Yeah. She also was Erin on The Office. She is so fascinating and fun to me.
Yeah.
I love her. So she's a goal for sometime after Humans of New York.
I love it.
She's a dream. Man, that's such a good pick. I'm obsessed with that show. I'm going to like go rewatch it. Inspired by you. Man, okay, my last question that I want to ask you is, if you were to give someone a challenge or an encouragement for something that they could go out and do today, like this very moment, to just kind of live their life with kind of Cubby Graham style joy, what would that be? What would be the one action somebody could take today?
So I immediately thought of I did this photo shoot. I was actually a model for this photo shoot, and they had the best idea, and I was like, yes, 1,000,000% yes. So it was like for this suit company, and they had me, you know, they shot a bunch of like photos on the street of New York of me like wearing the suit, but like one of the moments that they wanted because it was like so much of like who I am, and just like loving to like make people's day and like bring a smile to people's face. And like, you know, a lot of people in New York, they just kind of like walk around with like a stone cold look, but they bought like a huge bundle of yellow smiley face balloons, and I stood in the middle of Chinatown and literally just like passed out smiley face balloons to people.
This is amazing.
As they were walking, walking home, walking to work. Like, I don't know what they did with it afterwards, but it was so fun to just see like people round the corner, and like there's this guy that's all dressed up, and he's handing people like yellow smiley face balloons, and just to like, I don't know, like people are always like trying to hand you like flyers and like all sorts of things, but like for somebody to like hand you a bright yellow balloon with a giant smiley face on it, like just to see people like just light up in that moment was so it was so much fun. This makes me so happy.
I think you and I should issue a challenge right here, right now, that if somebody does that, I will send them a gift. I don't know what the gift is yet. You're the king of gifts, so I'm going to ask for input from you, Cubby. But
100.
I think this is such a practical and funny thing. It's just like, it takes, like, I'll tell you this, like, a huge part of my job on Snapchat is to, like, do stuff in public. Not quite like that, like, but, like, I'm, like, always snapping in public, or I'm always, like, talking to strangers on Snapchat, just, like, super stuff. And it's so fun. But let me tell you, it makes me so nervous every time. Like, I was in New York City, and I was doing this snap when the Pope came to visit the States, and I was like interviewing people. No, I wasn't interviewing people. I was asking people to dance on Snapchat for me, and I called it Pope Francis Dances, and it was so goofy and so cheesy, and it was a really, really fun Snapchat. But like the truth is that I sat there on the ground in Times Square for 30 minutes trying to get up the guts to go and talk to people and ask them to be on my Snapchat.
Yeah.
Because it makes me so nervous and it's so awkward.
Totally.
But after I did it, it was so worth it. I had such a good experience with all these people. And so I'm going to issue this challenge. If somebody goes out and they've got a handful of balloons and they give them out to people and they like shoot video or they shoot photos or something and send it to Cubby and I, like tweet us or email us or whatever,
please.
Then we're going to send you a gift. Because that's awesome. I love this. This is so fun.
Okay, so here's the deal. I'm totally the same way, Brandon. Like,
yes.
Like, I'm the shyest. Like, when I was younger, I was so quiet. I wasn't, like, super quiet. I always got really nervous, like, talking to people. And, like, it's so funny because, like, I think a lot of people think that I'm, like, this big, outgoing, like, extrovert person that just, like, is always, like, doing all these crazy things to, like, make people smile. But, like, I have to do, like, for me
it's
to, like,
choice.
It's such a choice. Like, it's never come easy to me. Like, I used to be the shyest kid when I was little. Like, I remember having a conversation with somebody when I was younger was so challenging for me. Like, for me to have a conversation with somebody, especially, like, somebody that I, like, looked up to, or, like, just, like, a situation that, like, kind of, like, made me feel a little uncomfortable, I literally would rehearse in my head the conversation that I would have with them before having it.
Wow.
So I would be like, okay, I'm going to say this, and they're going to say that. And all growing up, I was always so, like, it was so hard for me to just, like, get words out and, like, not stumble all over them. And so it's never been easy. And so, like, I think, like, issuing a challenge like this is so I think it's going to feel, like, really out there for a lot of people. And, like, and just to, like, be at ease that, like, some of the most memorable moments that you'll ever have in life are the ones that are often the hardest. And, like,
that's good.
When you put yourself in a place, in a position of, like where you're just, like, a little bit uncomfortable, like I've come to learn to, like, embrace those moments, because I feel like it's in those moments that the best things come out of them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, like, that might not be your personality, but, like, just getting out there and, like, doing something to, like, make somebody's day and, like, bring a smile to their face, like, that they're gonna, like, remember at the end of their day, like, and I don't know.
I absolutely love that. Like, I love this idea of embrace the uncomfortable moments. Like, those are the moments that you're going to, like, look back on with, like, the greatest, like, joy. And so I guess the challenge is, if you want to get really specific, go out and hand people balloons on the street. And it's going to make you uncomfortable, but it's going to be so worth it. But, I mean, if you don't want to, like, pay for the helium, just go out and make yourself uncomfortable by choosing to love people. And I think that's the perfect way to end this episode. Like, that's amazing. Cubby, if people want to follow along with your joyful photos and, like, your life and what you do, like, where can they do that? Where can they find you online?
It's Cubby Graham, like on all social networks and things, Snapchat, Instagram, the tweets, all the things, and it's Graham, Graham, not like Instagram, like. My last name is actually Graham, but it's spelled Graham. But yeah, Cubby Graham on all things. Love to hear from you, and I don't know what to say after that.
I can't
wait to
no,
see
that's
people's
perfect.
stories. Like if
know it's
like I think it's gonna be really. I would love to hear like the stories that come out of like those moments of uncomfortability, of uncomfortableness.
Yes.
Of like
I like both of those words.
Like I'm so excited to just like hear about like the people that you meet through like giving somebody a yellow balloon or like whatever it is.
Yeah, dude, it's so good. I'm so glad that I tricked you and talked to you into being on this show. Like, thank you so much for being here today.
Wait, this is being recorded?
Yeah. No, dude, it's fine. This isn't being recorded.
Oh, okay, good. Just making sure.
Yeah, this is just a regular conversation. Don't worry about it, buddy.
Oh, you're the best.
Dude, thanks so much for being on the show. And
thank you for having me. This is seriously, it was so much fun.
Sounds Good with Brandon Harvey is part of the Gradient Podcast Network and is created in collaboration between me, Brandon Harvey, and Gradient. Find them on Facebook and Twitter at Gradient.is. That's Gradient.is. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. If you enjoyed the conversation, this was your first time listening, go and hit the subscribe button wherever you listen to podcasts. Some people use SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, Overcast. Use whatever you want. Just hit subscribe. That way new episodes of Sounds Good will download to your phone in your sleep. It's magical. If you want to see photos of me hanging out with kangaroos, koalas, and hobbits, it's so dorky, oh my gosh. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Facebook at Brandon Harvey. That's Brandon with an EN. And you can learn more about me and sign up for the good newsletter at brandonharvey.com. And that's it for this week's podcast. I'll see you next week when we get the opportunity to learn from another incredible person. Sound good?